Thank you.
That's great, Jean. Thank you very much. Good morning, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Sutherland County Committee. First of all, the apologies for absence.
I don't have any apologies for absence, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any?
Councillor Niven.
Councillor Niven.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Baird.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, item 2 on the agenda is declarations of interest. Members, do you have any declarations of interest? No? Okay, thank you. Item 3, good news. I would just like to mention the good news of the report for the Dornoch Primary School following an inspection just recently, and it was done very well and was reported as good throughout, with the strong leadership being mentioned in particular, and the children's welcoming and likeness and friendliness in the community, in the school. So well done to them. I think it's an excellent report, and certainly does show Dornoch in a very good light. So well done to them. Now I know Councillor McGilvery has would like to make a mention now, or maybe not with some good news. So I'll just hand over to Jim.
Yeah, it's under the heading of not so good news, Chair. Regret I have to concede that the mothballing of Highland Primary School will probably have to take place for the forthcoming academic session. And I think we've become not quite used to, but that we acknowledge the depopulation that is endemic throughout most of the county. But when the groundspeck of depopulation stands on the doorstep of the Inner Money Firth, I think we've really got to look with some alarm at what is actually happening here. Now, I have looked through, I have downloaded the Scottish Government paper on the action plan for depopulation, 95 pages of academic worthiness and 83 actions, the last of which was repeated. And I just fail to see the actual substance that is coming forward from this. The actual minister involved, Emma Roddick, is no longer minister. Her star is waning, and I think Mary Goodjohn will be history at the next elections. So we're running out of people to whom we can hold accountable. So my suggestion is that we write to the Deputy First Minister as a county committee and express our deep alarm at the ongoing level of depopulation in Sutherland and the way it's affecting our schools. That's the first part of my comments. The second part is going back to Edmonton, and I'd like to have recorded that my thanks to the Chair of Education and the HC Assistant Chief Executive of Education for the assurances and guarantees they have given that Edmonton Primary School premises will be maintained in a proper state to reopen immediately the roll rises. And secondly, assurances given that the school at the time of enrolment next year will be strongly marketed and promoted for enrolment for new pupils. So I'd like to have recorded to both Chair and Chief Education, Assistant Chief Education Officer.
Okay, thanks for that, Jim. I think I'm happy to arrange for that. I'd like to go to the Deputy First Minister from the Sutherland Committee. Is anybody otherwise minded? You and Marianne online? Marianne, hand up?
No, it's fine.
No, I would just like to support that letter to the Deputy First Minister, but also I would like to add a little bit of good news.
Oh, good.
Seeing as we've got good news. Good news is that the care home in Melvick at Sinclair Court had a very good report from the care inspectorate. So that was very good news to hear at a meeting last week. Thank you.
And thank you for informing us of that. That is indeed good news, so thank you for that. Anything else from anybody? Hugh, anything you'd like to add?
Thanks, Chair. I think that we must be mindful going forward of the situation we had in Dornoch Nursery last year, where they decided to close it for a year and lost all the staff that they had. So, you know, there's no forward thinking at all with this council, I'm afraid. They do things ad hoc, spur of the moment, and regret it later, and that's the stage we're at in Dornoch just now. whether we have nursery kids going in after August, if we get staff. If we get staff. Shambolic. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Hugh. I think that's sort of endemic of the whole depopulation issue that we have. We have to be a bit more forward thinking about that, and certainly there must be ways around this situation. Well, we can't afford to lose staff, and then we can't be open our nurseries. Similar situation when in the Calisona in town, where staffing led to the closure of that particular care home. And to the best of my knowledge, the building hasn't been started yet for the new one, and there's no talk of housing or anything else for staff coming in the future. So there are huge issues regarding that. Okay.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Chair, because as highlighted in our area place plan, jobs and housing are key. We'll have battle against depopulation, and at the point where we're scrabbling around to make up the last brick in the wall funding for 6 houses in Erriton, then money is not coming from the centre to support us the way it should.
Yeah, and I just caveat that as well, the fact we're building hundreds of houses in the place.
Yes.
But yet we're not building the infrastructure to support these houses, whether it be GP surgeries, retail outlets, or anything else. And that is quite into the rural part of Sutherland and probably other parts of Highland as well. Okay, I'll withdraw line into that now. Okay, our good news, stroke bad news, stroke catastrophic news has all been recorded, and we'll move on from there. So thank you, members, for looking into it. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Chair.
Item number 4. Sorry, Hugh.
No, I was just thanking you for that.
Moving on, this item number 4 is Scottish Fire and Rescue local performance report, and we've got David Bell here to give us the report, and we'll hand over to David.
Good morning, thank you, Chair. Morning, everybody. I'm Station Commander David Bell, the District Officer for East Sutherland and East Caithness. Obviously, the scrutiny report is being provided by SFRS for Sutherland. I'm reporting for the whole of Sutherland. However, there are parts of this that I am not involved in the management of, so there are various other station commanders, which I'm led to believe Hugh, for example, will be engaging with regards to respective areas. So the report, slight change in the format of the report here from previous reports we provided to you. So the reporting period, obviously quarters 3 to quarters 4, 24 to quarter 4 is January, February, March of 2005. The summary giving an indication of the 10 incident types that have been reported on through the report, and section 2 is the trends, which is providing an overview of the previous 16 quarters over a 4-year period for the 5 listed incident types that we're attending there. Okay, so we can see the trends, increase, decrease of attendance of these types of incidents throughout. So just going into the main body of the report, so section 3, accidental dwelling fires. Very slight increase, 5 accidental dwelling fires reported during this period, which is a slightly higher than previous quarters. No specific trends identified in that. However, any accidental dwelling fires, we will engage through our community action teams to educate and advise and support anybody involved with the accidental dwelling fires. And accidental dwelling fire casualties during this period, as in the report, sadly we had 1 accidental dwelling fire fatality within Sutherland within this period, and there was 0 accidental dwelling fire casualties within that. Following any domestic type property, we engage with PDIR, which is post-domestic incident response, offering engagement through the community action team, immediate home fire safety visits, and any onward referrals to our partner agencies within that type of incident. Non-fire casualties, mainly related to RTC's road traffic collisions. There were 2 casualties within the reporting period, no fatalities, and so very low numbers within that period. 4. Deliberate fires, 6 deliberate fires, again, slightly higher than previous periods. And again, we work within our community action team and within our areas to educate and promote fire safety advice and guidance, engaging with schools and community groups, etc. To if there's any trends or any advice and education that could be provided on that. On domestic fires, 3 reported within the period. Again, a slight increase on that. However, there is no trends identified within that. It is just, you know, unfortunately, these types of incidents do happen, and we respond and attend to them as we do daily business. Unwanted fire alarm signals, 21, beg your pardon, 28 unwanted fire alarm signals within this reporting period. Again, a slight increase. We can see the property types and the numbers against that within our report. Again, we do engage with our fire safety enforcement team where our district officers identify an increase for various reasons within, for example, residential homes, care homes. We will engage and provide support and education to the duty holders on these occasions, just again to try and reduce our number of unwanted fire alarm signals. Obviously, there was a change in the policy within SFRS previously, where we're not attending every automatic fire alarm. Obviously, for sleeping risk, we still do commercial premises. It would be the duty holder's responsibility to do that. Road traffic collisions, 2 were attended within the reporting period. Again, very low numbers for that quarter. Again, you know, it can be a seasonal thing. Obviously, coming into where we are at this time of year, numbers will vary and most likely increase again with tourism. North Coast 500 will have that impact and effect within Sutherland. But this period and specifically, very low numbers. Home fire safety visits, 30 visits carried out within this period. We are currently going through a new referral process for high and very high risk occupants within domestic properties. So there is that a changeover. So there might be a slight reduction in the next reporting period, just till it settles down into the new referral process and the criteria that's attached to carrying out home fire safety visits. So there is a change in policy and procedure within that currently. So moving on to section 12, station availability and establishment. So again, as we've spoken about previously, recruitment and availability is obviously a daily focus from me and my team to ensure that we maintain the availability of our appliances, our on-call staff, and also the ongoing recruitment process and campaigns and encouraging people to join the service. My area within Sutherland is relatively positive at the moment. We've had 2 new people starting within, one in Dornoch, one in Golspie last week. We've got more people coming through the pre-selection test process for Helensdale and Dornoch, still ongoing. So that's really very positive. And I know Mr. Morrison's been engaging with our station commander in Alpool with regard specifically to the west side of Sutherland for Lochinver and Scowrie and Tam. So Lochinver, there is some positive news there that we are getting some interest and going through the process for recruitment there. Okay. As I said, it is a challenge and it's an ongoing challenge, and we welcome any support and suggestions with that, but our team are engaging with that and supporting it pretty much on a daily basis to ensure providing the best we can with that. Okay. Where we have limited or lower availability, and where personnel using our systems to book off duty to get wet rest periods, etc., we then go down joint mobilising or movement of standby appliances to provide that resilience within areas as well. Okay. And then section 13 is really just a section within section 13 onwards. Relative information activities that's going on in the service. It's sort of good news, good practice that's happening. So wildfires, obviously we've been through an extremely busy spell with the weather conditions that we've had. Slightly easing now, but it is still a relatively high risk there. So our crews have been engaging, working very hard with that. We've had the rollout of a lot of new wildfire equipment and training for a number of our stations within Sutherland, which is really positive, and it just improves our ability to respond to wildfires, but also the health and welfare of our staff as well when attending these types of incidents, and providing better equipment. As I previously mentioned, there is a change within our home fire safety visits, so that is detailed within section 14. As I say, it talks about our wildfire strategy and equipment training that's been rolled out. There's a piece in here about battery energy storage systems, which is becoming more frequent and common now. A lot more inquiries and questions coming in to that, and our protection, prevention and preparedness department will deal with the referrals that come in from that, and they come into the service through Highland Council planning applications. So we're a consultee on Highland Council applications for these. Again, just a wee update and some information for you. Good practice for caravan, motorhome spacing in car parks, and I think I've engaged with Jim and perhaps yourself, Richard, in the past with regards to queries regarding that. Again, normally supported by our community action teams with regards to guidance and advice on that subject. And that is the main body and parts of our scrutiny report from Scottish Fire and Rescue Service.
Okay. Thank you for that, David. Much appreciated, and thank you for all the work that you and your teams do for keeping people safe and Sutherland. That's really appreciated.
Appreciate that, Rich. Thank you. Does anybody would like to any questions?
Well, I think so. I'll throw them with this forward. In case you remember them out now for a few myself. First of all, anybody online? Hugh, you got a hand up?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thanks for the report. It's actually very clear. You can follow it really well. So that the layout you're doing it in nowadays is really good. So thanks for that. Just on that last point first, I think the council are the worst for ramming car parks and camper vans into car parks. So we maybe need to take a wee bit of a lesson as well that, the invitation to pay car parks, certainly in Dornoch, they're just ramming them in there, and there's no, it's just a bit lawless, so again, we need to learn from that ourselves. The process for recruitment, it's just far too slow, in my opinion, as well. If we get people, we need to get them in and up and running as quick as we can, because people just don't wait forever for these things to happen. And that's the one criticism I would label on the service just now, is that we just don't grab them and get them in quick enough to get them interested. It takes probably months, and then by that time they've turned their attention to something else, like the Lochinver, they have the lifeboat, and Coast Guards in Philippervy and Dornoch and things like that. So we need to nab them when we can get them.
Yeah.
The other point is that of our 11 stations in Sutherland, we've got 71 vacancies. We've got 61 personnel and 71 vacancies. We have no football teams from Lochinver to Melvick, and that just tells you all about where we have no young people anymore. And that's the problem. We talked about it in the good news, bad news stories at the start. Lack of bodies, lack of people, and lack of young people. And unfortunately, we are where we are with that. And, you know, we need to start from the bottom up. Like I keep saying, every time I open my mouth, I probably say that, you know, we need to be doing people bottom up is what we need in the rural areas. And until we get that, we're kind of snookered like so. But thank you very much for all the work you do. And thanks to all the staff that have been dealing with issues since the last report came out, as well as you can pass on our thanks to them. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Morrison. Thank you.
I'll bring in Marianne, and then if you want to respond to Marianne.
Okay, I'd just like to agree with what Hugh said about the camper van situation. In the sort of unofficial car parks, it's quite worrying because they're parked so close together they can hardly open their own doors sometimes. On recruitment as well, I had a request from a couple of community councils if they could have some clear information to share, or if it could be shared on social media or somewhere, just what the new contracts are, because there is a certain level of interest in the fact that maybe people could be retained firefighters without having such a big commitment, and we've been made aware of that, but it'd be really good if we could have something clear to share, just so that communities can be more aware of that.
Yeah.
And just a tiny little point about the Lochinver one, there is actually 1 female and 2 males, so it would be nice to have that. It says 3 males. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I'll just roll with Jim as well. Jim.
Yeah, and just to say it's a very readable report. I very much like the style and the format, because the main information comes right out at you. A quick question. Council Car Park here is mentioned already, but I noticed a bit that says SFIS recommends that such sites should be risk assessed for fire safety, and that this is reflected within the site fire assessment. Have you received any risk assessments from the council for their car parks?
Not personally. If they were sent in, they would go to our fire safety enforcement department, but I can certainly ask that question for you, Jim. Yeah.
Okay, David, if you want to respond to those things out for now.
So just fine. Thank you for the questions and the feedback, but very greatly received. Thank you. The report format, as I say, yes, I'll take that feedback back into the service, because this is a report that all district officers will be using. This is the format that will be created as in line with the whole of the Highlands area. So that's good to get that feedback, and I'll take that back in. Recruitment process, yes, Mr. Morrison, I do appreciate it is a very lengthy process. Unfortunately, sometimes the timescales with people, there is some responsibility lies with the individual, getting medicals and eyesight tests, and returning documents, etc. So there's certainly parts on both sides that can restrict or slow down the recruitment process, and I deal with that firsthand, and I'm fully aware of sometimes the frustrations that can be of getting people to fully engage, but certainly I'll feed that back in to our recruitment teams as well, because they're always looking at ways of trying to improve and speed up processes. Yes, again, lack of people. As I said, it's a challenge, and we try and promote through social media for recruitment. We try and get banners up, posters up, through any station open door events that we do. We try and tag in recruitment to anything we're involved in. So as I said, we're actively looking at that almost on a daily basis. Within that, just trying to improve, because obviously the numbers within station, it improves the health and welfare for our current personnel, because it gives them more rest periods, but it also greatly improves the availability of appliances as well. So we're looking at the whole picture of recruitment. Contracts, I'll really take that on board about putting through social media the new contract levels for on-call personnel. I know it's been done in one other area out with Sutherland, and I'll really take that on board, Marianne, because I think that's a really good thing to share. The contract levels are put into bandings now, so we have different availability bandings rather than we had 75% and 100% availability contract. We've now got 5 bandings, giving a far wider spread of hours available for an on-call firefighter. But yeah, very good point to get that shared out there, because again, somebody might be able to provide us 60 hours in a week, whereas before it was, as I say, it was either 90 or 120 hours. So we've got a lot more flexibility within the availability in the contracts now. That's fine. And the other 2 points, I'll ensure the report is adjusted to reflect the recruitment for Lochinver, and I'll speak to our fire safety enforcement department with regards to risk assessments for car parks to see if anything was returned through that process. Thank you.
Thank you, David. A few questions myself now. Both the report there, you talked about deliberate fire causes.
Yeah.
There was a number of them for grass farms. Was this farmers and crofters and actually start fires to clear land as this common in sort of autumn and springtime?
So there's sort of there'll be a number of causes there. Obviously we've got muir burn season for state workers and such like. A lot of the deliberate ones, there'll be accidental, where someone's burning garden waste, that type of thing, right through to the other extent where it's almost willful fire raising.
There was 28 unwanted fire alarms.
Yeah.
Were they all attended or?
Yes, those ones will be attended. As I said, there is a challenge call challenging through our ops control. So if it comes in as a commercial premise, it's the duty holder's responsibility to investigate and put that back to us to say that it's been checked out, there's no fire, it's caused by a broken call point or that type of thing. However, the ones reported in there, 28, will be attended because they will all be associated to a sleeping risk.
And that was 28 within Sutherland area?
Yes. Yeah. As I said, within the report, there is quite an increase there, and I think the numbers associated with care or residential was quite high. Yeah, residential homes 13. Again, that's probably the core of our automatic fire alarms. Will be care residential homes. That can come down to the occupancy type within the care home, health issues or with an individual perhaps, and we can get spikes within that. However, as I said, our fire safety enforcement team will engage with them and educate them through the Fire Scotland guidance on unwanted fire alarms and the guidance that's put in place for Fire Scotland Act with regards to all that guidance and that piece of engagement. There's a piece of work done in Dornoch and it does make a difference in most cases. Just a little piece of education, we can get these figures settled again and back down to where we like to see them.
Okay. Now you also talked about referral for home visits, change in the criteria. Can you tell us the changes of what?
It's really the referral process, how the referrals are made from a partner agency into the service. It has to be a secure referral, secure process. It can't just be a phone call type, for a GDPR basis. It has to come through a secure process, received to our community action team, and then it comes into our community mailbox and then will go out to either a station or it'll be dealt with by our community action team. And as Jim knows firsthand, we have Donna Wilson, part of our community action team, working with at Dornoch, and she oversees monthly whole of Sutherland for our safety visits and engagement with schools, community groups and education package being delivered. So we do a lot of work. I'm very fortunate to Sutherland to have Donna based with us. Yes, very good.
Thank you. Last one for me is, and item 14 there, talk about the tiered approach for wildfire response. So the different stations, do we have any of the stations where we have all of the gear, like 2 or 3 stations for the general base in Sutherland?
Yes, so what we have at the moment, as I said, we're relatively new in the rollout of the equipment. So tier 2 stations that I have will be Dornoch specifically. I'll apologise because I'm not sure what Allapool on the west coast certainly has. They're a tier 3 station, and Invergordon is a tier 3 station. Dunbeath is a tier 2 station without extra equipment, and Ballantor will be the same, Leicester the same, I know with Sutherland, but Dornoch specifically will be a tier 2 station, but they're getting equipped with a 4x4 support van with additional equipment. So that's, again, I think very positive for Sutherland, for Dornoch station, to be provided with that. It's anticipated it'll be here within the next small number of weeks. I don't have a time scale on it at the moment, but the training is ongoing. So they're getting equipment such as leaf blowers, which is a really vital piece of equipment now for tackling wildfires. So they'll get a van with a number of leaf blowers in it, brush cutters, knapsack back tanks, dedicated specific equipment. So really positive for Sutherland to get that. And again, we've got Invergordon on our doorstep with a 4x4 vehicle, trailer, and off-road ATV as well. So there's a massive change in availability of equipment and levels of training that's gone out for our tier 2, tier 3 stations. And again, it's detailed there, but flexi duty officers, it deals at my level and above, our tactical advisors as well. So we go through quite a intensive training program for that as well. So yeah, I think wildfire training has really stepped up in the very last year or so, I would say. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Just one thing I want to say is just thank you for the response for your teams for the Robert Bates fire, which is quite severe. Recently for wildfire 30 Goldsby.
Yes, yeah.
Excellent response from your team. So thank you. I'll pass on our advice.
I certainly will pass it on. It's been a very busy and challenging sort of not last probably 6-8 weeks for our crews have been extremely busy throughout, not just Sutherland, but throughout Highlands and throughout the service. It's been extremely busy spell for us and challenging just for various reasons. That we've got the rain. Well, well, I'm not sure. It doesn't seem to have really had any effect at the moment. Certainly after the weekend I've had, it's been quite challenging, shall we say. But that's what we're on duty for, and that's what we're working to achieve. So,
well, thank you very much indeed for your time today, David. It's appreciated. You're welcome to stay with us. I suspect you've got other things you'd rather be doing.
I shall drop out if that's okay. But as always, I'm always available for any support, contact. Never hesitate to give me an email or a call. Or pop into the office, the door's always open, and anybody's very welcome to pop in and catch up at any point.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll leave it to you to Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, members, moving on. Dornoch Common Good Fund, the application for Dornoch for independent life boat. I think we've got Bill here to the piece, is it working? Morning, John, you today.
Well, thanks, Sam. Okay, thank you. Members, the report for you outlines an application for £25,000 made by Dornoch Firth Independent Lifeboat. Dornoch Common Good Fund. That was used to construct a concrete apron for the lifeboat station and install a water tank for firefighting. Committee councillors supported. The application being more than £10,000 requires committee approval. And it is proposed to increase the grants and contributions. Grants and contributions by 25,000 to facilitate approval of the grant without using up all of there's £5,000 allocated for grants and contributions, as agreed at County Committee on 17th of February. So the report also presents a revised budget, which is contained in Appendix 2.
Members, are there any questions regarding this application?
I've got questions, Chair, but just to say I'm content with it. First, it was good in take a breath. Then, when you consider it, funded, self-funded the whole project, that's far different private sources, which is very commendable. This is perhaps the last brick in the wall to complete the security of the structure. It's approved or supported by the Community Council, and therefore it's not approved.
Members online, any questions or comments?
No, happy to support.
Okay, thank you. I have one question regarding the firefighting. It seems to me that's kind of a specialist thing. We've got a fire station in Dornoch. I wonder why we need additional firefighting equipment at the beach when it's 5 minutes away from fire teams from the Dornoch fire station.
So I had discussions with them a few months ago about this, and if I remember and understand correctly, it was a planning condition that they put in a fire tank so they're able to deal with, because it's quite a large facility, deal with fires, both there and in the car park.
Okay. I presume there's also training on board for the personnel involved. That's a specialist thing to do.
I think the idea is that the tank is available for the fire service to use.
All right, so I'm thinking that there's the big boat crews. I mean, it's on the premises. I hope that they're not expected to be putting out fires.
No, the source of water available to fire service.
That's what it's actually.
Yes.
So it's all what's not thinking about. Okay, members. Okay, members, we are asked to approve a revised budget for Dornoch Common Good Fund and approve a grant of £25,000 for Dornoch Common Good Fund, Dornoch Fire, Dornoch for Independent Lifeboat, East Sutherland Rescue Association. Are we happy to do that?
Great.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Okay, moving on.
It's me again.
Item number 6 is the Sutherland Area Police Plan Report, and Phil's going to do that. Give us an introduction to that too.
Thank you very much. So I think the first thing to say is for the team members, a number of people involved. I'm just the person sending the box. So in 2021, Highland Council made a commitment to develop area place plans based on area standards. Area place plans aim to capture common themes and priorities reflecting the aspirations of the local community while aligning existing strategic goals.
I just say the
Chair.
sound's really bad.
Sorry.
Can't hear.
I was just going to say the same thing then. Where's the mic there, guys? Is it at this end or is it above you? Or
There's 3 of them above the table. Can you hear me okay?
I've been struggling since the start, to be fair, and the camera keeps shifting on to, is it Caroline and Phil that were sitting there? So I know we know who was speaking, but I'm not sure how the movements are working on everything today. So if Phil, if you start speaking and then maybe I'll tell you if you go left or right or look up and I'll tell you which is best.
Okay, well, I'm going to look to the right first, to the chair. I'm going to look up to the ceiling and now I'm going to look left towards the screen. Which
Left is the worst, so definitely don't look left. Don't look at us when you're speaking. Did you find that the same, Marianne?
Yeah, I think it's because are the mics up above you?
Yes.
So you'll have to look to the heavens when you're speaking.
Just carry on, we'll see how it goes.
We'll try and raise our voices and not let Phil start you going.
Okay, thank you. So in 2021, Highland Council made a commitment to develop area place plans based on area community boundaries. Area place plans aim to capture common themes and priorities reflecting the aspirations of the local community while aligning with existing strategic and local plans. It's worth noting the difference between local place plans and area place plans. Local place plans present detailed issues and projects at a community level, and they have a formal role in planning, whereas the area place plan is meant to be an overview of key themes and opportunities. Is the sound much better now, members?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
fine.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So the process, we reviewed existing plans and strategies. This included the Northwest 2045 vision, and Carl Sutherland Development Trust did a lot of work on behalf of Sutherland Community Partnership to pull together information, as did colleagues in Highland Council. This was followed by 5 public drop-in sessions, and we did see some members. It was good to see some members at those sessions. There was also an opportunity for online engagement. The priorities identified in the plan are organised into 3 categories: people, place and prosperity, which will be themes that you will recognise from elsewhere. The plan is presented in Appendix 2 of the report, and once it's approved, it will be properly designed, photos and the like have to include so it can be published. The structure includes an introduction, a section on how the plan is developed and an overview of Sutherland, and then the key bit, the challenges and opportunities. I don't think members will be surprised with any of the things that people highlighted as priorities. Things such as access to health and social care, the declining and ageing population, community capacity and resilience, environment and renewables, housing, infrastructure, connectivity, roads, public transport, and so on. There are appendices attached to the back that contain the evidence that supports our consultation and the evidence that we found in preparation for the consultation and report. So how will the plan be used? The idea is to establish a shared understanding of local needs and opportunities, to inform decisions on service design and delivery, to support evidence, to act as supporting evidence for funding bids, whether that's our own, partners or communities, to encourage public, private and community collaboration, make the best use of available resources, and link in with local and national decision making. So the next steps. First thing that we've got to do, once assuming that members are content with the plan and approve it, is that we will start working on the development and action plan. Because what you will see in the plan is essentially a list of priorities. And what we need to do now is turn that into actions so that we can start delivering actions that start to address those priorities. It's anticipated that that will be an iterative process and the plan will continue to evolve as time goes on. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Phil. Okay, members, I'll throw it open for any questions regarding this Sutherland area police plan. Any questions?
I just have work that's been done by the kind of Sutherland Development Trust in fitting this plan. And I'm just curious to see that my main priorities feature jobs and housing. I just hope that we can have it as a priority over the Scottish planning system to allow things like jobs and housing actually to take place and address our depopulation. So I look forward to the next the actions that we're going to be formulated.
From my perspective, I look at the plan and I see all sorts of things that I've been well aware of for a long time, but I'm sure everybody else has as well. I think it's good that we keep doing these things just to remind ourselves of where we need to improve. And I think it's highlighting a lot of things that we need to keep on going. And I'm looking forward to seeing the action plan. So I think that's the crux of it. Yeah, having an area police plan is one thing. Without actions, it's just about paper. So we have to get the action plan in place, then we can actually start to work through it and see what we can do to achieve it and change it. And certainly, as Jim was saying, jobs, housing, all of those things, childcare and renewables, I think are also one big thing for us. I don't know what we can do in terms of an action plan as far as that's concerned, but communities need to be able to be heard when we talk about the renewables and the impact it has on their areas. I think that's really, really important. So yes, I'm happy with it. And members were asked to consider and adopt the Sutherland Area Police Plan, using it as a tool to inform and support decision making about Sutherland, support and promote the plan where possible in terms of consideration with other plans, strategies, development and funding opportunities across or impacting the Sutherland area. And item 3, note the next step for progressing the work set out in the plan, which we know will be the action plan. I would be happy to do that, members.
Great.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, moving on, bereavement services project updates. Do we have anybody? Yes.
Rachel is online.
Hello, Rachel. Thank you for joining us. Do you want to go through this report or make any comments on it?
Yeah, no problem at all. Morning, members. John is unavailable today, so I'll be taking you through our report. I think I know most of you already, but if you don't, my name is Rachel and I work on the Burial Ground Extension Programme. The report today provides an update to members regarding the burial ground capacities within the Sutherland area. Through the capital programme, the council aims to provide appropriate burial ground provision across the Highlands. Our team reviews burial ground extensions where capacity falls to below 10 years based on the past trends. Information on burial and layer sales is monitored on a weekly basis by us from data submitted from the local business support teams. Appendix 1 in the report lists the 40 burial grounds and their estimated capacities within the Sutherland area, with 24 currently operational and 16 being closed. Within the report, section 6.4 shows some of the challenges and difficulties we face when searching for land for burial ground use. 6.4 in the report highlights recent work completed in the area. The extension to Pronsey Burial Ground near Dornoch was opened for use last year. The works added over 720 layers to the cemetery, allowing for an estimated 60 years of additional capacity. This also allowed for pre-purchasing of layers to restart within the burial ground. Although they're out with our current capital programme, section 6.5 shows that we have 3 burial grounds in the area with 10 years or less remaining capacity, and those are Golspie, Lairg and Melness. Golspie currently has 7.3 years remaining, and Lairg currently has just under 10. All options for both Golspie and Lairg are being investigated and reviewed for moving forward with our rolling programme. Melness currently has 10 years remaining capacity as well. Early discussions are ongoing for a possible extension in the area, with burial ground testings being carried out after the summer. Work is still ongoing to review the detailed projects within our current capital budget, and the bereavement services team will continue to engage with local members on projects in your area, and your ongoing support is very much appreciated. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that. I'll open to the floor first of all, and from myself. Any questions, members, or any comments? Jim?
Just 6.4, just note with great gratitude the situation at the Pronsey Burial Ground at Dornoch and the 60-year additional capacity. It's been a 10-year driving ambition, and it's accomplished with the very, very helpful attitude of Cemeteries Officer, the late Hugh Gardner, whom I greatly miss, and it's perhaps that's something that Hugh would be delighted to actually see in place now.
Thank you for that. Hugh, your hand up.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the report. I was just a question on Melness. I have spoken to you recently about it, and I wondered, I was informed that there was no new layers being sold there just now. Is that right or wrong, or can you update me on what's happening there?
Yes, that would be correct. The sort of general rule of thumb is when you get to 10 years or less, the pre-sales halt, just to sort of preserve as much of the layers as we can as possible. So it will be, the remaining layers will be held for time of need until we can get an extension in place like Pronsey, where the pre-sales can restart.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, with regards to Golspie, it seems to be the top of the list in terms of the length of time left before it's full. What have any areas been identified for an extension or for an additional burial ground in Golspie?
Sort of as of yet, we are still investigating all the appropriate areas that we can. We are going to be looking as well in the current cemetery just to ensure we've maximised all the space that we can, to see if we can get a few extra layers out there as we do within all of our burial grounds. Again, if there is any sort of preference or any suggestions at all from yourselves or the community councils or anyone at all, you can reach out to ourselves and we'll add it to our investigations list.
Thank you for that. One last question, and it's not capacity. Claim curtain repairs. Rora. I know that we looked for contractors there. Has any progress been made on that?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you just repeat that for me there?
The wall at Clynkirk in Rora, which is collapsed. I know that contractors were being looked for. Do we have we made any progress on that?
I will double check that for you, and I will send you an email. Like I say, I'm sort of on the more the extension side, so I will double check and get back to you.
That's okay. Thank you. No more questions, members? No. Okay, members, we are asked to note the current capacities and progress of burial ground extension in the Sutherland area, and note the challenges with identifying and developing suitable land for burial ground development. All right, have we done that? Yeah.
Great.
Thank you for your time today. Much appreciated. You're more than welcome to stay with us if you'd like to, but I suspect not.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. Bye bye now. Okay, members, item number 8, housing performance report, and we've got Marina Grant with us. Good morning, Marina. How are you today?
Morning. Fine, thank you, Chair. Morning, members. Hope you're all well. You have before you today the annual housing performance report. Firstly, if I can draw your attention to section 6, which is rent arrears. Table 1 details the area arrears by ward. You can see that we ended the year with a reduction in arrears in comparison to Q4 from year 23-24. Following on, table 2 shows the gross rent arrears as a percentage on annual rent due. Our target figure is 6.9% with a benchmark of 6.7. Sutherland ended the year with a percentage of 3.08% for Ward 1 and 2.38% for Ward 4. This is significantly lower than the Highland average of 6.82%. Table 3 details the value of rent arrears in bands. Members will note there is only one case above the 2,500 level, 8 cases in total with arrears of over £1,000. The majority of our arrears are low balances of under £500. The Sutherland team will continue to concentrate on early intervention using our own welfare support team and the likes of citizens' advice, etc., just to prevent cases from escalating. Table 4, this details rent actions. There has only been one eviction in Sutherland in 24-25. As always, eviction is a last resort for our team. We have lots of communication with support offered to tenants before we reach that point. And if we move to section 7, this information is on antisocial behaviour. The majority of our antisocial behaviour reports are low level with the likes of noise, dog barking, etc. And in these types of cases, we would involve our colleagues in environmental health as a service with legislative powers. And we also work closely with Police Scotland and hold weekly Safer Sutherland meetings. Section 8 details the number of homeless presentations. There were 299 presentations in Highland at the end of Q4. 7 of those presentations were made in Sutherland. Lastly, section 9, this details the number of Sutherland allocations. There were 109 allocations last year, and 16 out of the 19 homeless clients allocated housing had a need to. Yeah, happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that, Marina. Members, any questions for Marina on the report? No. I'm not seeing any hands, and nobody here, and Louis. Well, thank you for the report, Marina. Much appreciated. I will just comment on the success of your team in regards to the rent arrears. I think that's really good. In fact, we're so low, below the Highland average. I think that's fantastic. I'm just curious. Can you tell me, do you have any idea how much of the rent arrears under £500 are related to universal credit and housing benefit becoming a bit late, which we all know it does, Any idea you could, how you could quantify that?
Don't have that information at hand today, but you're right that there will be a level of those £500 cases which will be in relation to universal credit, because we look for our rents in advance and universal credit is paid in arrears. But I can certainly get that information for you and pass that on to you.
I think that would be useful. I think if we can understand, but I think it is skewing the information a little bit. And I'm sure that quite a number of people are affected by that payment in arrears with regards to the rate, which must be quite stressful for individuals as well, because a lot more people don't like to pay arrears. And if it's arrears is no fault of their own, then that is quite a stressful situation to be in. Other than that, I think the report's excellent. Can you pass on your thanks to your team for all the hard work they do? We know that they work really hard to support the tenants in the area, and it's greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'll certainly tell the team. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, we are asked in the recommendations, if I can find them again. Members asked to note the information provided on housing performance in the period 1st of April 2024 to 31st of March 2025. Are we happy we've done that?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time, Rena. Much appreciated.
Thank you, members.
Okay, thanks. Moving on, members. We are on to item number 9, Sutherland Access Rangers zero funding for 24-25.
And Phil has some slides to introduce.
Hi, Phil. Good morning, Phil. How are you today?
Good morning. I hope you can see me. I can't see all the members. I can see Matt in the corner there and another lady sat in the... is it possible to move the screen slightly so I can see you?
It's not the screen so much as the camera.
Sorry, the camera, yes, that's what I meant.
It's been like that all morning, so don't worry about it, Phil.
Okay, all right, of course, you'll have been seeing the same. Right, be nice to see the chair and the other members. Right,
well,
there we go. That's it, that's it. Right, great, thank you, good morning. Right, I have a presentation of what the Rangers were doing last summer as a result of producing the final report for the Community Regeneration Fund. So I'll go through the summer programme. Obviously, I presented some of it to you last October, I think it was. So I'll probably move quickly through that and focus on the figures and the final results of the data they collected. So you've got zooming in and out and camera, right? And then Matt will show some photos of some of the work that the Rangers had done in the winter. Okay, oh, we're just back to where we started after all that with the camera. Okay, if I can share screen now. Pull that up. Okay, is that visible to you all?
Yeah, you can see that, yeah. Phil.
Okay, great. Okay, right. As you know, that was the team last year. 4 of them at the start, although the chap second right left after a couple of months. So then down to the core 3, who were very busy. There we go. Right. So these first few, say, I went through previously, and you'll be aware of what the role of the Rangers, primarily to promote and encourage responsible access and to engage with visitors and communities, patrolling, producing the reports, and developing Rangers relationships with managers, land managers, organisations, and communities, and undertaking the site maintenance and monitoring. So the areas, that's how it's split up between the 4 and then 3 of them. Once Steve left in the northwest, that area was then covered by Cameron going on over a weekend, a Saturday and Sunday, in between going to Ascent, and also Chaz went over there on a Tuesday. So there was coverage of the northwest as well as the other areas. So the usual hotspots, the monitoring form, the caveats on the data, I hope you're all aware of. So the headlines, this is something they've put together as a result of getting the final figures. So it kind of sums up what they found over the course of the 5 months from the beginning of June to the end of October. They patrolled slightly more sites than was done the previous year, even though there was a sort of little reduction in the numbers of rangers, but they were very active. On motorhomes, a slight reduction on the previous year, but very minimal. So therefore a similar figure. But that worked out as an increase in the number seen per patrol. And that increase was most obvious in the east, in East Sutherland. And there also seems to be a big increase in the number of roof tents. These roof tent boxes seen on car roofs, particularly on four-wheel drives, are certainly increasing year on year. The number of off-site tents, though, is reducing. Obviously, there was a high immediately post-COVID, and that seems to be going down slightly each year, but still remains well above the pre-COVID numbers. Fires, still an issue, but I think in general, last year was less concerning, given it was a relatively wet and windy summer. So I think there was less issues needed to be dealt with. There's still a few every now and again, obviously 10 needing to be put out that could have spread further or were in inappropriate places. But there's also been an increase in the number of these fire bowls, which are a bit safer and obviously don't damage the ground that people are on. So I mean, that's kind of an encouraging sign that the fire bowls are being used more than just ground fires. Outdoor toileting was a bit of an increase still, particularly on the roadsides, and obviously with camping and motorhomes, and sometimes some of the motorhome waste dumping, which move on to the next one. There was 16 incidents of that throughout Sutherland, which was very similar to the previous year. So maybe still need to look at where these facilities could be improved. And they collected 220 bags of litter. This will have been mainly anything that was dumped by litter bins or spread across a site, or areas that aren't collected by the waste team. Sometimes if a bin is overflowing or sort of the lid's popping off, they will take the last few inches off the top so that it doesn't spill out over the course of the next couple of days before the waste team can get there. And in those 5 months, over 6,000 vehicles were seen parked in the car parks and roadsides, and over 10,000 people seen out and about. They spoke to and positively engaged with 3,500 people, mainly about obviously responsible behaviour when it was necessary, but also about facilities and generally welcoming them to the area, and making sure that people were actually enjoying themselves responsibly. There were, however, 46 negative engagements. These are people who have either misinterpreted the access code or engaging in inconsiderate behaviour and feel that they have a right to do so. But yeah, each one of these negative engagements can be very concerning to the ranger and can affect their feelings of mental capacity for the day, but they deal with them as they need to. But fortunately, it's very much a minority, as you can see by the numbers. Okay, as for the figures, we'll see that those were all the collected. October was in addition to what you saw previously. So obviously things start to sort of quieten down in October, but can occasionally still have busy periods through the school holidays in October. And how that compares to previous years, you're still getting higher numbers in certain things where the yellow is on that graph. Those are higher numbers than in previous years, so things can still be increasing. And how that compares in graphs, see the number of people spoken with is still increasing in certain areas, well, maybe down a bit from last year, but more spoken to in Assynt. The number of cars, again, the east was just appeared to be a little bit busier last year, we perhaps put this down to maybe people going anti-clockwise around the North Coast 500 rather than clockwise. Maybe they'd done it previously one way and seemed to be coming back more the other way. Or it may have been that looking at weather forecasts, there was a slightly better weather in the east, which causes people more to go that way rather than over to the west. So examples of what was seen. Again, I'll run through these relatively quickly because I did show them to you back in October. So the roadside camping or inappropriately large tents, or by historic monuments, or just off-road on somebody's land, by cemeteries, and yeah, larger groups leaving a mess behind them. So these things still occurring. And the numbers, you can see there, you can see the sort of general decrease in camping numbers, but still relatively significant. There's still a few abandoned sites. Relatively, I think there was only 3 or 4 last year, but these range from just one sort of scrappy tent that's blown over and left behind to a whole range of things, including a paddleboard. Surprising that somebody would left it behind, but they did. And then other times it's just maybe not the tent, but things that they just left behind, stuffed into a crack or crevice, and even the abandoned caravan. Outdoor toileting, again, it shows that sort of increase in the east here particularly, but there is some signs of improvement other than that eastern figure. Sorry, perhaps you don't really want to see these, but I'm sorry, I'm mistaken in how I've produced these, but yes, so these are the human waste behind these. This one on the left is actually a motorhome waste dumping on, that's usually how it presents itself, lots of soaken toilet paper and blue chemical waste. Yeah, and the other pictures, you can imagine what they're like. Fire marks, you can see that decrease this year in the number of fire marks. Again, put that down to perhaps slightly worse weather or increased awareness of fire risk. So there could be a positive or a sort of weather-related issues there, and the number of fires put out is reduced from previous years as well. Where they do find them, of course, try to repair the damage. That was the damage on that site, and then that's the repair. This site now has a big rock over that site, so I don't know how that got there, but yeah, that can't be used as a fire site anymore. Yeah, and this is the repair job. And yeah, burnt fire marks at Smoo Cave and on the shore there at I think, yeah, that's Ardrett Castle. So another example of a repair, I think this was forest near Skelbo, in the car park of the forest, but the ranger did their best to clear it up and disguise the damage. Waste and litter, the overflowing bins, say remove all this stuff when they come across it, and if they don't, this is what can happen, and so they then pick up this stuff. And that's what the van can be looking like after a busy day. So the amount of bin bags collected is sort of fairly bottoming out, sort of static in the east there, a bit of a reduction from some of the previous years, but it's still sort of significant figures. Off-road parking, still a bit of an issue in certain areas, showed that one earlier, but people just feeling that they can drive off-road whenever they feel like it, so they get a little bit of a word from the ranger to put them right. And yeah, in worst cases, this is the sort of thing that can happen, just churning up the land. To say there's an increase in the roof tents, so this sort of thing in the laybys, which strictly speaking is an offence to show an encampment on a layby as part of the road structure, or driven off land, this sort of thing, and then creating a campsite or in a car park, again, maybe taking up space that others might want to use, or at least others feeling that they have to keep a bit of a distance. Or again, just on a roadside encampment. And the numbers there, perhaps, of roof tents, so showing that rise year on year. So it's something that we'll expect to see increasing each year. And motorhomes, as we know, also increasing, all these car parks full of them. So there's an interesting photo sent recently by one ranger showing the difference between the old traditional VW and these modern day motorhomes. The size difference is quite phenomenal when you see the two next to each other. We see that some areas are showing a little bit of a decrease, but not huge numbers, but the eastern side again showing the increase there. And then the waste that's deposited, same overall number as last year, but maybe a different distribution of where the incidents were, more in the north last year and the west, whereas this year perhaps more in the north and east. So access work, I'll just skip through this because this Matt can talk about this a little bit more and has put some photos together. So these are just a few quick examples of what was done. And those ones were in the summer. Willing widows continues to be a bit of an issue, sort of the parking on the roadside, creating potential safety issues, but also churning up the verge, and the path to the falls is also getting very eroded. And we think Matt's still keeping that in mind to try to do something about it, contacting the owners and seeing if they would be willing to engage on making some improvement. Yeah, the roadside verge there, and you can see how it's increasingly getting bad. The other point of concern at Puffin Cove, Red Point from Holliston, whichever name you prefer. This now has a clearway this year, but last year didn't. And so you were getting these roadside parking issues. There was that bund and fence put in on part of it, but it's just caused people to park a little bit further away and then walking along the road verge. Sorry, I'll go back to that. As I say, this year at Drumholliston, there is a clearway, so we'll monitor to see how effective that's going to be. Cannabine, see, this was taken a couple of years ago, and that was at the extent of the sort of camping boom at Cannabine. The number of tents this year has drastically decreased. Still gets the number of motorhomes in the car park and the roadside. But we put that decrease down to some of the increased management we've done and improving the path, putting up signage, habitat restoration areas. You can just see one in the distance there, and we can close in, where we put up this green mesh or rope around areas that have become eroded, either with fire sites or just very well worn. And then these, like that. With a sign on explaining why we're doing it and what the justification is. And we can see an improvement in the vegetation quite markedly. People are respecting these. So that's a quick run through those. Matt, do you want to talk about the...
Do you ask questions first? Members, any questions for Phil? To put Matt in? No? Okay, Matt, floor's all yours.
So I was just going to go through a few before and after pictures. So
Right,
we had three, so we had three part-time, so three of the staff stayed on last year part-time, 2.5 days a week. So they worked 2 days 1 week and 3 days the next from the end of October. And they started doing some very early patrols in April this year from the sort of holiday. So so the first picture here, so it's been, through the years, we've had a long list of to-do lists, and we've got a long list of work to do. So some of this work's taken a few years in the making. So this is at Embo. So the John River Trail, worked with the landowner and put in this lovely style just on the railway line. But obviously their involvement was basically trying to get walkers over the fence. And it's become the route to use, and you can see it's at the bottom of the embankment. You have to go down the embankment into a narrow wet puddle. So with coordination of the landowner and some funding from Highland Council, we've put in the access rangers put in 2 of these gates at Cool, which is towards Fort Penny. So we've put the gate on the level, so it's better for bikers. And it's interestingly, I know the chair of the access forum, John Ross, is retired, he very much a user of the electric bike, and a lot of people now use pedal assist bikes. So where previously people might have taken mountain bikes up and over these styles, they're certainly, the clientele is getting older, and they're not able to lift the electric bikes over the fences. So this is a route that is going to be used by many off-road people for bikes, as well as the John O'Groats Trail. And the John O'Groats Trail have taken on that gate for us. So although it will be our gate, and we'll take it away if it has become damaged, or we'll try and replace it. John O'Groats Trail, the Friends, the Associated Northern Trails are going to monitor that for us. And on that same bit of stretch of railway line, we've also done stripping work. Actually, probably more like brush cutting. So when the gorse gets overgrown, it becomes pretty hard to strip, and it also very quickly, a few strands of gorse quickly stop your general walkers walking somewhere, and they'll find somewhere else to walk. So that's a very popular route. It's probably more locals, I would suspect, Jim. It's no, apart from the long distance route people who are doing the John O'Groats Trail, it's not a visitor path. We go on to the next path, Phil, next picture, Phil. So what we've seen here before is Smooth Cave is very exposed. You can see another picture on the left there is a little bit of an angle. I don't know what the ranger was doing with the picture there, but you can see very much a very steep drop. So this fencing was put in, I think, in the late 1980s, early 1990s. And we want, although you can still get around the fence, we want to give people confidence to be able to walk around Smooth Cave and not have their children really on the tight lead. It is a fair drop, and it's very, very exposed. So the Rangers last year, through 2024, really tried to repair this fence, but essentially it needed, with 2 access rangers and myself went there for 2 separate days and really had to dig that fence in. So you can see it's only 5 posts, but that took a whole day to get those in. You basically dig down a few centimetres and you hit the limestone. I thought the limestone was going to be really solid, and I thought we'd have to like drill and excavate it, but it's actually quite broken. So it certainly won't take a fence post in any other way. So there's a day there doing the fence posts, and that's Chaz straightening them up and making sure it's nice and neat. And if you go to the finished picture, I think you've already seen this in your, if you go to the next page, Phil, you see, apart from, I can certainly tell it's new, but it looks a lot better. And the issue we have at Smooth Cave is there's hundreds of meters of this fence, hundreds of meters, and we can't really replace it. Well, it's too cost prohibitive to replace it en masse. So it is a case of trying to repair it as and when. And it's problems where we have tried to have local contractors in the past, but it's to just do a day work here, a day work there. It's really hard to get local contractors to come and. I mean, we've only got 1 or 2 in doing this. You know, Kenny McRae and Sons. You know, we haven't got a lot of choice of contractors. So if they're busy building houses in the summer, or they're busy doing their other work, so the access rangers have been a great help in these more remote areas. Chaz has also done some step work on the west approach, the main approach, which is filling in this. I didn't actually have any pictures of this. I should have found some pictures. So Chaz has been up and done some step work as well. But we've got one more picture at Smooth, Phil. This is very typical of Smooth. We don't want to have fences everywhere. That, you know, people see the path, or people see people on the horizon, and then they just head off. So, but we've got a very busy site. We do want people on the path. Otherwise, it is just become one big path. So we've done this before in a number of places. It's just a short section of fence. And again, it's not the type of work that you would get a contractor in for. It's not the kind of work that they can do during patrols. So this is something they will be doing between times and do that. And it's very effective work. But it's not labour intensive, but it's time intensive just in organising it. So and the roads team are a great help. We're able to keep materials from the road stores, and we've got some road materials in Leg in the pipe depot. So we have got a little stock of materials. And like Phil pointed out, the habitat work there, it is very. We don't want to create our own litter. So we can do that again. Potentially going to do that at. I'm investigating doing some kind of habitat rescue work at Melvick. At Melvick's getting a lot of people walking on the Macca and camping, and I think cameras address that primarily as well. So you've seen that straight away. And I've got some more pictures, Phil. So a little bit further north, or they've not come onto one page. It very typical. I've mentioned gorse. This is on the upper Big House, the Velvet Path. Used to be a very popular route. It's not getting as much use as it does. We're trying to improve that with signage in Big House, and certainly the gorse stops people walking. So this is something that we can have on a list. You know, we can have it on a spreadsheet, and the access rangers can do this informally on their own as and when. And if they're really keen, they can do a volunteer day, or they can get the community council to come along. So there's a lot of gorse. There's a lot of gorse across the county to clear paths. And even really busy paths. I mean, we've got a path in Helmsdale that the Hillgate shoots their race, and they keep that clear, and they struggle to keep that one clear. So the hillside above Helmsdale is just a mountain. It is hard to keep in check. Okay, the last pictures, Phil.
I think that's it.
Oh no, okay, I had some more. So we did have another picture. We've been doing some sign work at Goldsby, and there's actually quite a lot of new picnic benches. So some of the old picnic benches at the cave nest slabs, they've been broken. So we replaced the benches at Kylestew. We've repaired benches at Broadham as well. So I will say that's what we've done from 3 or 4 months' work. There's a list in the report. I think Phil suggested there's a list of the full works that we've done. I will bear in mind as well that the Rangers, probably some of the ones that left stayed over, did have holiday to take, so they didn't take any holiday in the summer. So and there was quite a few holidays taken there, and the closed period. And I will say it is quite hard when your Rangers have got small vans to move materials around. It's great for litter, that bag of the vans are full of litter. It's no good to take a fencing rail or a gate. So there's quite a lot of coordination there with the road team, and sometimes the community payback van that we borrow out of Goldsby here to move materials around. And if there's any path works that do need consideration, usually we'll either by the summer access rangers or the winter access rangers, hopefully we can keep them on next winter, then let me know what the access rangers know, and we'll add it onto our long list. It's nice to have a list of works that are ready to go, or we can plan for.
Okay, thanks for that, Matt. Members, do you have any questions from Matt? Well, no, we'll see any. Up Hugh. Hugh.
Okay. It was just to say that if you're looking for any fencing work to be done in Dornoch, there is a fencer locally that would to carry out any of that work. And maybe more for Phil. Is it possible to get a list of who the Rangers are this year, and also would they engage with, we have a chairs meeting every quarter, would they engage with the chairs so that they can touch base with the community councils as a first point of contact as well, because it's handy to know who's in the area and in working in each area, and if they have a point of contact with community councils, they could work hand in hand, and also with the police as well, if that's possible. I don't know if it's possible, but
yes, yeah, indeed. Yeah, I didn't really kind of finish off there in that, obviously, as Matt did mention, that the 2 rangers that worked over the winter did start patrols in Easter. Then we obviously had the funding allocated in March. We recruited, and the rangers for this year have started as of last week. So their first patrols of the new team were the last weekend there. So there is now another ranger covering the northwest. Basically, there are 2 rangers, one from last year and a new one, that are alternating between East Sutherland and Ross, and also the far northwest. This is because they one lives at Invershin and the other has family at Legg, so they kind of east-based, but will cover the northwest. And in answer to your question, yes, one of their aims is to obviously coordinate and liaise with the community. So I think getting along to the community councillors meeting is a good idea. It's useful, obviously, to get them used to the job, to know what they're doing, and also have something to report, and also feel as if their feet are under the table. When is the next meeting of the chairs of the community council, Hugh?
We could probably have one maybe at the end of this month, because community councils only have one more before they break for the summer. So I think it would be important maybe to have one, and the police would be involved as well, and then they can maybe meet everybody, and then they've got July and August to get to know the area. But just could you send to the members the names and numbers of the rangers that we have in place just now, just so we have a contact for them as well? That'd be handy.
Yep, the names certainly. They haven't got their council phones as yet, so we don't like them to give out their personal phone numbers.
No, just whenever that happens, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Until such
or
time,
an email. Anything.
Yeah, until such time as they do get their council allotted email and phone, we have got the general mailbox, accessrangers@highland.gov.uk. So any inquiries can go into there, and we'll sort of send that out to them personally. But they will get a personal email address soon. As for police, yeah, we will be getting the police contacts for each ranger. We had a presentation from a police officer at the induction day last Wednesday, and he's promised to send this contact list, and they will be sort of making contact locally with the police stations, police officers that are in the area too. I think that covered all your points. Hugh, was there anything else?
No, I think that's. Oh, well, maybe going back to the Wailing Widows, myself and Marianne have been involved with Ascent and Scary Community Council, and it's probably Matt's area as well. And there needs to be a lot of talk to start that ball rolling, because there needs to be work done there, because it is very dangerous for the traffic at the side of the road just now, and people stepping out of their vehicles and onto the middle of the road. So we all know what the issues are, but we need to start getting the ball rolling to get it solved, to be honest.
Yes, I agree.
Thanks for that. Jim.
I'll just to say it's a very vital service and I greatly appreciate it. And I'm delighted that Highland Council has finally recognised how vital it is and has come forward and taken responsibility for funding it again.
So, okay, from my point of view, the report's excellent. The work that we've done over the last year has been fantastic. And I have to say, we take pride in the fact that we funded you because nobody else in Highland, to know that part of Highland funded Rangers, and it's been proven to be a great success. And I'm absolutely delighted we took that chance, and it's paid off. And it's now been recognised across the Highlands as being a valuable service. And let's hope it's able to thrive going forward. A couple of things I would say. Some of the issues in the report, especially when it comes to the outside toileting, horrendous situation, and I take my hat off to your ranger for actually dealing with that. It's can't be an easy thing to do, but the fact that that thing is they can't be everywhere. So that's the stuff they're finding. How much more is going on we don't know about, and it's not being visible to us. Not that I wanted to see it, but you know what I mean. So please pass on our thanks to everybody involved. I think they're doing a tremendous job, and with Matt and the fence building and the set work and all the rest of it, I think it's really enhancing the area, and it's really, we should be proud of that work's been done. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Members, we are asked to note the information provided in the report and within Appendix 1 as the final claims to the Community Regeneration Fund for this project. Are we happy with on that?
Chair, Marianne had her hand up, sorry.
Sorry, Marianne, when you go.
Okay, it's okay. Hugh's asked I think he's asked all the questions actually I was going to ask and raised all the points. But I would like to just say thank you very much for the report and for all the work. And it's really interesting to see what goes on in the winter. And if I was to ask for one wee clarification, are we going to be able to keep people on the same basis through the winter? I know I should probably know that, but could you just quickly answer that? Thank you.
Yeah, well, we hope to. It will be sort of the skeleton team, if you like, through the winter again. We'd hope to, offer the whole team to see who was interested in staying on, and then be able to pick 8 people on a part-time basis to stay through till next year. And should we get the nod for funding next year, at least those 8 will be ready to start again, the patrols at Easter, so they can have a quick start. So there is that advantage as well. So yes. Where those 8 will be, we just won't know yet, because it's a mix of those that are interested and willing to stay on, and also where we need them to. So we've got to make that judgment call sort of later in the year when we put that ask out to the team.
Thank you. That's really useful to know. Thank you.
It's also worth noting as well, the tourist season is extending. It's getting longer. It's going well into October and possibly beyond, and it's starting earlier in the year as well. So I think we need to bear that in mind when it comes to start full service going forward for next year as well. Okay, members, the recommendations are there. I have to note the information provided. Are we happy we've done that?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, Matt and Phil. Much appreciated your time today.
I'll be in touch with everyone, I'm sure.
Very well. I know we're racist.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Thanks very much indeed. Good night. Okay, members, now we're 10 on the agenda is environmental health annual report and activity. This is a surprising one. I didn't notice it until today. So we have Daniel Hopwood with us today. Daniel, welcome. And I'm glad you turned up early. We'd missed you completely otherwise. So if you want to give us the report, thank you.
Yeah, apologies for any confusion or lateness on the report. It was actually I think it was an issue with it reaching the clerks. It was prepared a month early, which is unusual for me, and I think I've learnt a lesson: never do a report a month early. But anyway, so apologies for that. Also apologies for not being there in person this morning. I've got some slides which I can go through, which cover the main points of the report. So I'll just pop the screen share on there if you just bear with me. Oh. So I'm hoping you guys are seeing my slides now.
Yeah,
yep, I'm seeing some nods, which is perfect. So a little bit of background, because I'm mindful that obviously we haven't presented a report like this to the Sutherland Area Committee before. It was agreed in the Environmental Health Operational Plan of last year, actually, that we would provide annual reports to the area committees on our activity, and particularly focusing on the local activity, in order to basically let you guys know what we're doing, give you an opportunity to engage with myself as the manager and identify any local issues that you feel that we need to address. For those of you who don't know, environmental health, we carry out a wide range of statutory duties. The broad connecting remit is they protect public health, so from food safety, health and safety, nuisance, so noise complaints, smoke nuisance, pollution of other kinds, contaminated land, animal health and welfare, an awful lot of activities covered. There's more details of that in the body of the report itself. An awful lot of the work that we carry out is proactive. So we have a proactive food safety program. The work that we do is obviously regulatory and is designed to be proportionate, consistent, accountable, transparent and targeted. Obviously we're not ones rushing straight for enforcement in every situation, although if that's needed it is something that we'll consider, but we're much more keen and much more focused on engaging, explaining, encouraging and only then resorting in enforcement. There's some details coming up on the enforcement activity that we've taken this year. Little bit of background: environmental health operate in 3 operational areas: north, mid and west. The north team, which obviously Sutherland is a part of, has one senior EHO which manages both the Caithness and Sutherland teams, and that's myself. We have staff in 2 offices in Wick, in Caithness House. We have 4.6 full-time equivalents, and the office in Dramui has 10 full-time equivalents. Officers from both of those offices provide cover for the north area. So at the moment we have environmental health officers out of Caithness providing support in Sutherland. We have short-term let officers and private water supply officers and grants officers doing work from Sutherland into Caithness. A detailed structure report is in Appendix 1 of the report, but what I will just say is that we are in the process of some workforce planning. So we are carrying a EHO vacancy in Sutherland since the officer left us, Andy Hurst, who some of you may have had some dealings with over the years. He'd worked in Sutherland for a great number of years. He left us us earlier this year. His post is currently vacant. As part of the workforce planning, we're looking at extending the provision of the senior environmental health officers. So it's possible that Sutherland will get a senior environmental health officer who will both be an operational and managerial post, but that's ongoing. As I said, we carry out reactive work, we carry out proactive work, and we carry out formal enforcement. And I'll touch on all three of those areas in the coming slides. The reactive work, these are the complaints that we receive. We call them service requests. So that could be somebody wanting to make a complaint about an abandoned vehicle, about dog fouling, about a noise complaint. It could be a planning consultation, a licensing consultation. There's a broad range. Full list of the breakdown of all of the different types of service request is in Appendix 2 of the full report. I think what I'll draw your attention to is the total number of service requests we have recorded for the last financial year in Sutherland is 968. This is up from around 600 in 2021. 2020-2021. It's a increasing, it's an upward trend, looking at the number of service requests that we receive. Although, and I'll come on to this in a little bit more detail, an awful lot of that increase is relating to short-term let consultations. Looking at proactive or programmed work, as I've already mentioned, we carry out a proactive food safety programme, and we carry out proactive water sampling, as well as proactive inspections of miscellaneous licensing premises. These are establishments such as catteries, kennels, home boarders, riding establishments, caravan sites, and zoos and various other things that we're lucky or not lucky enough to have in Sutherland, as well as some health and safety inspections. I'll just comment on this just briefly. The proactive water sampling, we've done 171. That's out of, I think it's 180 that were due, and the 9 that we didn't do were down to access issues. So the 2 officers involved in the proactive water sampling programme have really stepped up in the last year and carried out that. We got an additional fixed term contract post in order to allow us to catch up with a little bit of a backlog there. So I'm pleased that post and the private water supply officer have been delivering on that. That's of particular note. Food safety inspections as well. We've done just shy of 120 of those. Your eye may be drawn to the health and safety inspections, and you may be wondering why we've only carried out 1 health and safety inspection, a proactive health and safety inspection in the last financial year. This is mainly because of a reduction in targeted health and safety inspections imposed upon us by the health and safety executive. We can only carry out very targeted inspections, or very targeted proactive inspections on certain priority areas that the health and safety executive set for us. What I will say is, just because there's only 1 proactive health and safety inspection noted there, that doesn't mean that we've only done 1 health and safety inspection where we get complaints or where we come across issues whilst we're there for other reasons. So for instance, if our officers are carrying out a food safety inspection and they notice an issue relating to health and safety, we would look to deal with that at the time. So as I say, just because it says 1 doesn't mean we've only done 1. Looking at the formal activity that we've undertaken, starting with health and safety, you'll see that we've served 1 improvement notice and 1 prohibition notice. An improvement notice is for something that's obviously serious enough to warrant a legal notice, but can be improved within a timescale. A prohibition notice is for something which is so dangerous it has to be stopped there and then. Both of those notices relate to electrical installations and have been complied with. They were served as a result of other interventions. So this is where a generic environmental health officer has gone out for one thing and come across a health and safety issue, which they've then taken action to address. We've got 3 food safety improvement notices. These are served on food businesses which are either doing something very, very bad or have a history of poor compliance, and we escalate through our enforcement policy to improvement notice. And we have an animal health and welfare notice. And as I've said, all of those notices have been complied with by the relevant duty holder. We also award various grants as part of the functions carried out by environmental health. They are basically adaptation and repairs grants. They're for housing. The adaptation grants, as it says, are for adaptations to allow people with disabilities to continue to live in their home. The assistance grants are repairs grants for privately owned properties that are in poor condition. The repairs grants are significantly means tested and are unlikely to continue, I think. But you'll note we've done 28 adaptation grants, spending just over £213,000 in Sutherland, and we've also say 1 repairs grant and 6 private water supply grants. These are grants that we provide in order to improve the resilience or the treatment of private water supplies, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, we do have a fair number of in Sutherland. Those 6 grants to the total value of £7,200 covered 9 properties. They're normally for, as I say, improvements to treatment, so new UV or similar systems. As I mentioned earlier on, a significant reason for the increase in the number of service requests we've had in Sutherland is related to short-term let licensing, and as you can see, around 40% of the total service requests that were completed in Sutherland for the last financial year related to short-term let licensing. These are predominantly consultations that our officers carry out on short-term let license applications, so we're checking to make sure that those properties are safe and suitable and meet the standards, have the necessary certification. We have appointed 2 additional staff in the last financial year before, in order to respond to those consultations. And as I mentioned, those 2 officers are based in the offices in Dramui, and predominantly work on applications in Sutherland and Caithness, but also provide help as a desk-based activity, reviewing applications across the whole of Highland. So our officers last year will have reviewed short-term lets from Sutherland or every area of Highland. We are proposing for the current financial year some compliance checks to be completed across a sample of the short-term let properties. We'll be having a look in an attempt to identify those that we feel present the higher risk. So they are the ones that have perhaps unusual access arrangements or have a hot tub or similar. These present surprising difficulties in actually gaining access, because obviously we can't just turn up when the property is being let. So this is proving to be slightly more challenging than perhaps we'd envisaged, but obviously we can speak as to how we got on with those this time next year. Just going forwards, not backwards, sorry. Looking at some other sort of local highlights, abandoned vehicles, which I know are, I was going to say always popular with the constituents. Obviously, I don't mean they're always a high-profile issue with the constituents, as well as dog control, littering, and fly tipping. And obviously, we saw some evidence of dirty camping and litter with the previous report, which is always distressing to see, even to me. But looking at the abandoned vehicles, significant number of abandoned vehicles reported to us over the year. We've got 49 reported to us. We're reviewing our process for dealing with abandoned vehicles, and we're trying a pilot scheme in Inverness looking at that. We've also appointed a new education and enforcement officer, which replaces the assistant community works officer that covers these areas in Sutherland, and she's been working through a backlog of abandoned vehicles and other reports. As I mentioned, dog control, littering and fly tipping, 58 cases of that reported to us. It's very difficult for us to be able to actually deal with the littering and fly tipping in a formal way because of the evidential boundaries, the evidential barriers that are in place in order for us to do that. Fly tipping requires corroborated evidence, and we require people actually seeing somebody doing the dumping. Well, actually, two people seeing that, or photographs of that actually happening. Littering is slightly easier in that one witness is sufficient, but we're much more keen on focusing on the proactive work that we've done. I mentioned we had a new officer just after Christmas. They're in post now. They've carried out up to the end of March 26 proactive patrols for littering and dog fouling and general sort of dog control, and have renewed or put up signage relating to dog fouling in 8 towns and villages. And I know that they've continued that work in the first quarter of this financial year. And as it says, I'm really happy to receive any suggestions of areas that we need to look at or focus on for the coming year. More broadly, across the whole of environmental health, we're going to have some changes to the miscellaneous licensing relating to animals. So canine fertility services are expected to require a license from April next year. This is something that we suspect will have many more than we think of. How many of those will be located in Sutherland, I genuinely don't know, but we'll be doing some work to try and identify those. There's also the potential for an extension of licensing to cover dog walking, dog grooming and livery services, although I'm not holding my breath with implementation of that one, at least probably 2 years off if it happens. I'm just going to leap about a little bit to the third bullet point and then come back to the second one. We've also got the upcoming regulation of non-surgical cosmetic procedures, the enforcement of which is likely to be split between environmental health and other agencies. We suspect that this will give us a significant amount of work to do. There are a surprising number of businesses operating non-surgical cosmetic procedures out of various premises and out of their own homes at times. The social media and Facebook is covered with it. So again, there'll be a fair bit of work for us to do on identifying and working through those. But I think it's high time that some of those activities were regulated. And then just to return to the middle points, so OCV, its official control verification, is a new method for us to ensure compliance in the higher risk food establishments. The higher risk food establishments are predominantly producers that supply to other businesses. So we have mostly fish and shellfish in Sutherland, and this is, as I say, this new inspection regime moves us from a single intervention, normally annually, to a 12-month rolling inspection cycle. So we're seeing probably a between a 4- and 6-fold increase in the amount of time it's taking us to regulate or carry out these interventions. Sutherland currently has 8 such approved establishments, same number as in Caithness, although I do believe that a number of those are no longer carrying out activities which require them to be approved. So I'm expecting that number to drop. Just moving on, we've got the ask from the members to note and provide feedback on. I'll not read that out. You can see that's there, and that's me. So I'll top the screen share off.
Well, thank you for that report, Daniel. I'm so glad you came along today. It was really, really interesting. A lot of good information there, and it's I look forward to seeing you at future meetings where we're a bit more organised. Really, I mean, I just, there's so much information you've given us today. I'll need a lot of my time to digest a lot of it. But it's really interesting to see the amount of work that you guys are doing. When the number of service requests by general category in table 1 is huge. So you're obviously very, very busy people. And so the short-term licensing consultation at 383, that's growing numbers. And really, it's interesting to see that new legislation coming in there. That's got a huge impact on your workload. With regards to resources, and you did touch on resources there, but I mean, given the increase in workload, are your resources really able to carry out all these additional works that you have?
Thank you for noting the broad range of work that we carry out. Sometimes I think we forget as officers just how broad the range of work is. With regards to the resourcing, I'll talk on the short-term let stuff and then some other bits more generally, if I may. We've been very lucky in that we've been able to obtain funding to additional full-time posts covering the short-term let licensing consultations. They're funded through the short-term let license fees that the operators of those properties pay. As I say, we've been lucky to get those 2 posts, because there'd have been absolutely no way we'd have been able to resource that with the existing resources that we had. They're part of a team of, there's about 7 or 8 across the whole of Highland that we've had to bring on in order to carry out that new work, which came in a number of years ago. We've also, as I mentioned, we were able to obtain funding to provide a fixed term contract for 12 months for another private water supply sampling officer in Sutherland. That allowed us to deal with a significant backlog across the whole of Highland, actually, in regards to our water sampling and risk assessments for the regulated private water supplies. I'm happy to report, as I mentioned, that the private water supplies work is now back on track, and that additional resource, which will be leaving us later this year, has done what we'd wanted it and we'd intended it to do. More broadly, we are currently sitting with an environmental health officer vacancy in Sutherland. As I mentioned, that's part of a post we're holding pending some workforce planning and some changes that we're making with regards to the organisation of the service. That provides us with significant challenges, as I'm sure you can imagine. It's mainly one of geography, though, because we do have officers in Caithness who have been stepping up and are providing cover for most of the traditional environmental health work, I should say, out of the office in Caithness. We do have another environmental health officer post in Sutherland. That's currently filled by an officer who is undertaking the training to become an environmental health officer. They're just finishing the end of their practical placement year with us, and then they'll have 1 more year at university and then they'll qualify. One of the issues that we face as a profession, not just as Sutherland or not just as Highland, is there is a shortfall in the number of environmental health officers available both in Scotland and in England and Wales. It becomes surprisingly challenging to attract people to such a beautiful place as Highland, as Sutherland. So what we have done across Highland is we've got 3 officers involved in training to become environmental health officers, 1 in Sutherland, 1 toward Loch Harbour and 1 in Inverness. So we're doing this in-house to be able to provide that additional resource that we need. As I mentioned, our officers are carrying out multiple activities whilst they're out and about. So the notices that we served in relation to health and safety, the environmental health officer concerned served those not because they were there for a health and safety complaint, but because they were there for something else, which is why the use of environmental health officers in the more remote and rural offices is so critical. I'm afraid I went off on one now. I'm sorry. I think I covered your questions now, I hope.
Yes, you have. Thank you very much for that. It's really appreciated. I don't want to make this sound a trick question, but as far as dog fouling is concerned, can you give me any information on any fixed penalties that have been made in the Highlands generally for that particular offence?
It's one of the areas that we are aware that there is an awful lot of focus on with regards to the lack of fixed penalty notices issued for dog fouling. I'm not aware in the last financial year that any fixed penalty notices for dog fouling were served across Highland, and that's something that we're looking at. I'm not going to sit here now and promise that we're going to be issuing loads and loads of fixed penalty notices for dog fouling. What we're focusing on, and we've renamed the the role, the job title of the officers involved in that role to education and enforcement officers. You notice the word education that's in there. One of the things that we're very keen on is looking to ramp up that engagement and education. And I think I mentioned 26 proactive patrols in Sutherland. That will be 26 patrols, I think, since February. So that's February and March, we did 26. The officer messaged me this morning to say that they'd done, I think, another 18 subsequently. So to answer your question, I don't believe any have been served. It's something that we're looking at. It's something that we have a new, so the senior environmental health officers, we all manage various geographic areas, but we also manage various functional areas across the breadth of the legislation that environmental health enforce. We have a new officer who started with us 3 or 4 weeks ago now as a senior environmental health officer, and as part of their portfolio they do have the incivilities, so the littering, the dog fouling, the fly tipping under their remit, and we are looking at refreshing the process and the procedures to hopefully, when I speak to you next year, I can say that we have actually served some, because I think we probably should be, if I'm going to be honest. What I can say is we served 1 fixed penalty notice for fly tipping. That was served in Caithness last year.
Thank you for that. Members, any questions or comments? Jim?
Just a question, just to express my commendation for the new dog warden we have in our area, because I think the young lady in question has certainly hit the ground running and her personality upon dog owners in my particular corner.
Thank you. I'm all in favour of education as well, enforcement. I think that's important. Members online, any questions for Daniel?
No, just to thank you for the work that you and your team do, really. That's all. Thank you.
Great, Daniel, thank you for that. And one thing I'm particularly delighted about is the fact that we have 10 FTE based at Trinui for environmental health. That makes me happy. So it's good to see it being used. I know it is being used much more often, and it's an ideal base for your team. So thank you for your time today, much appreciated, and look forward to hearing you next time.
Thank you for the kind words. I'll certainly pass on the praise to our dog warden. She'll be very happy to hear that, as am I.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Daniel. Members, we are in the recommendations. We're asked to note and provide any feedback on the range and volume of work being undertaken locally by the environmental health team and Highland White issues and the report format and content. I think we've done that.
Great.
Thank you, members. Okay, Daniel, you're free to go. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Members, item number 11, I think, is the board discretionary funds, and that's just for noting. I think we're just take my agenda here. Apologies. Board discretionary awards for North West and Central Sutherland Board discretionary budget, and for East Sutherland and Edgerton. Do you have any comments regarding the awards that we made over the last 12 months, from April 24 to March 2025? Nope. Okay, happy to note down.
Yeah, noted.
Thank you. Finally, minutes from the last meeting. Just there again for noting. Any comments on the minutes from last meeting? No. Okay. No. Thank you. Okay, members. Thank you very much for your time today. That's the conclusion of our meeting, and I think you'll agree that it's been a lot of good, useful information provided to us today by all of the officers concerned. I think it'll be useful. Well, thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.
Sure.